This is Talk Business and Politics with Roby Brock.
Joining me now is John Brummett of the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. Good to see you, sir.
Good to be here, as always.
Do you want to do the hog call now, or do you want to do it at the end
No, I
of the
just
deal?
want to say...
You're a homer now, aren't you?
I'm not a homer now. Well, maybe I am. I've tried to explain that what I've made fun of over the years is irrational exuberance in Razorback fans. And also coaches who were incompetent and players who weren't given good effort, which we saw in the last several years. That was what I was ridiculing. I mean, I was a Razorback fan from birth, and I think in terms
You're rewriting some history like some of these Trump supporters now that are seeing some handwriting on the wall.
Well,
is there a correlation?
They're misreading that particular handwriting. But this coach, his assistants, and the effort of the players, that effort Saturday, the effort in all four of the games, really. You can get behind that. I'm a front runner and proud to be a front runner. I'm a fair weather fan and proud to be, because I don't understand being a fan of something that's not measuring up to what you want from it. I don't understand that. You know?
You've heard that Georgia is excited that now Arkansas is helping them with their strength of schedule, whereas
they need to help themselves against Alabama.
Auburn and LSU weren't helping them so much.
Right.
So.
Arkansas was in the others receiving votes, by the way, just this morning.
Really?
Yes, for the top 25.
All right, let's move to some politics.
Yeah.
We put some new polling out over the last week. Let's start first with our French Hill Joyce Elliott poll that shows this race is basically tied, 46 to 45.5%. I'm not surprised, but I am surprised that the race really hasn't moved much from our first poll around Labor Day. Do you think it's been the power of her media? Has it been the power of the money that she's had to kind of match some of these attacks that have come from him and counter them, or is there something else in the mixture?
I think it's all of that. I think it's the things that you mentioned. Let's see. The first poll, which people sort of went, I wonder if this is just an outlier, was 47.5 to 46, and this one is within what 46 to 45.5 rounding, a little closer than that if you take it to the next point. Which means they're both down a little, which means the negative advertising is hitting both more or less equally. But I think it's that her campaign has been so good. Her TV media has been so abundant and so good. That teenager ad and a couple of the Willisville ad, these are like a narrative that she's telling the voters, which is what good campaigns do. The other is I think things are sort of settled in, largely in 9 out of 10 voters. And they're settled in a way that Trump is less popular in the 2nd district than anywhere else in the state. Might even lose the 2nd district to Joe Biden. It's a Democratic dynamic, and it is affecting women and the elderly, and those are holding. And Trump and French Hill's attacks largely appeal to male conservative Trump voters. Basically, that's where you're trying to turn those out. But it's not changing any of the existing dynamic. So I'm looking at a race that one of your guys, Kuhn, said it's now a complete turnout race. I think it largely is, except she needs to continue to sell herself to these conservatively inclined women. I think she has to do that. But this thing could go down to an all-nighter, with both of them around 50%. There's no third candidate. There's no libertarian messing up the math here. And
someone's going to win.
Yeah.
You know, the other thing, too, when you look at races like that, if someone's around 48%, their odds are in their favor that they're going to push it over 50. When someone's around 42 or a little bit below that, like an incumbent, for instance, it's really difficult for them to make up that ground. With both of them sitting in this 46, 45.5% range, it just makes it a total coin toss to me.
Exactly.
I mean, it is very difficult to see which way this thing breaks. And that is one of the things that'll be exciting to watch on election night, quite frankly, and how the last couple of weeks of the campaign plays out.
Right. I mean, what else they're going to throw? Is it going to be, if it's just the same old, with French Hill hitting with some targeted mailers and calling her all the liberal things, then he's not changing her vote. He's trying to drum up additional votes at this point, it seems to me.
But she's not punching him hard. I mean, she's hitting him on some Social Security and Medicare, but she's not.
Meanwhile, she's doing that.
She's not.
The polls show if she does this, it's going to be largely women, and it's going to be the elderly, and that's not just here, but that's nationwide. Elderly, particularly concerned about the Republican reaction to the handling of the coronavirus. So she's telling this narrative, and it occurred to me, and maybe I've written this, maybe it's just in my mind and I haven't written it yet. That debate where I thought she sort of took it off and didn't get real tough as I expected her to, that was part of a media strategy. She was going to come back the next day with this teenager ad. She was going to come back with her heritage in Willettsville, and to the extent that she hits him on Medicare and Social Security, that's only because that plays to the existing dynamic by which elderly seem to be recoiling against Republicans. So she's run a very smart race. I can't imagine, that's the thing, I can't imagine what changes it so much at this date. Who knows? You know, every week we say I can't imagine, but I should have imagined. But that's usually at the presidential level. I mean, this is one that could go down to 50.3 to 49.7. And it could be based on the late returns from Searcy for Hill, or late heavy absentee getting counted, maybe the next morning.
Yeah, maybe even some overseas ballots that hadn't been returned or something. It could be a lot of things.
The stage is set for that kind of drama.
Let's talk about, as you and I talk, we haven't released these numbers yet, but they will be out by the time this gets up on the air. We're in the U.S. Senate race. We've got Tom Cotton with a very comfortable lead over his Libertarian challenger, 62-27, basically 63-28, however you want to look at that. And President Trump, statewide, it's not going to be a long night for Arkansas to make that call, 58 to about 33.5%. Does this look to you like traditional Democratic numbers versus traditional Republican numbers from what we've seen in the last couple of cycles?
Yeah, I think basically the Democrats have got a base in Arkansas of around 35, and the 35 is anti-Republican as well. So the Libertarian candidate, who's the only, shamefully, the Democrats don't have a candidate, but the Libertarian candidate, who's the only option to Trump, to Cotton, is at 28. I suspect he'll get up close to the Democratic 35.
Yeah.
And people are going to, some old-time politicos are wondering if he's going to outdo Monroe Schwartzlos. Remember that 1980, you don't remember, you weren't born yet.
I do remember that, I was born, yes.
1980 governor's race, a retired turkey farmer who spent his filing fee, that was all, but was the only opponent to Clinton in the Democratic primary, got 31%. It was just like, against Bill Clinton. And that foretold
the Frank White upset.
The Frank White upset that fall.
Yeah.
So we'll see. May I switch to the presidential numbers?
Yes.
This is a remarkable thing. What do you got Trump at? 58?
58.
And Biden at 30?
33.5.
You had a poll, I don't guess you did it this time, but your poll of the 2nd District, your first Elliott Hill poll, threw in Biden, Trump in the 2nd District of Central Arkansas.
Yes.
Biden, was he ahead?
4
points. I don't know what's changed in that. Nothing, basically.
The 1st and the 4th District.
That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting at. 2nd District is about a split. Let's say it's close, about a 50-50 split. Pulaski County is the dominant part of it. Once you get out of Pulaski County, it reverses. I'm telling you, 58% statewide, with Pulaski County being as blue as it is, tells me that when you get outside the city limits of Little Rock, 3 out of 4 voters you see, 3 out of 4, it seems to me, are for Trump. It makes me decide to stay home as much as the virus makes me stay home. I mean, that's its own kind of virus, it seems to me. I sound like I'm ridiculing those people. No, it just alarms me as an alien in my own land. I mean, this is my state, and I'm just at odds with the prevailing culture. But it's the one thing that's holding for Republicans right now nationwide are the rural areas. Suburbs are gone Democratic, exurbs are changing a little, cities are all Democratic. The one thing that's just solid red is rural, and Arkansas is largely that, rural. So that's what's happening. And I'll say this, I think, my belief is that the dynamic out there that makes Trump that popular, I think 70%, if you sort of 70 to 75, is people kind of like him, this old country expression, he's such a mess and people are amused by somebody. They call him such a mess. What a mess. He's a jokester, but they like it. There's some of that. But I think the stronger thing out there is the thing that was, if you read closely, that what was the point of this backhanded endorsement of Trump in the Democrat Gazette editorial Sunday, which is, we ain't crazy about him, but these AOC and Kamala and Pelosi, they're going to run over Joe, and Joe's old anyway, and this scares us, and therefore we're probably going to settle on him as the only check available. I believe the aversion to contemporary democratic liberalism in the rural areas of Arkansas is stronger than the adoration of Trump. It all goes into the same pot of votes. But I think that's really what's going on. I think the first thing you'll hear out there in rural Arkansas is not, I love Trump, you might, but man, I don't want Kamala Harris to be president. This AOC socialism, the guns, the abortion, all those things, aversion to the Democrats. I think that's what's the story.
You know what's going to be fascinating is after the election, the presidential election, looking at the precinct maps,
Right.
you know, when they paint them red and blue in terms of ones Trump wins and ones that Biden wins, that's going to be a really telling snapshot.
I would
when
think
we see
today, and these may be other famous last words, but the numbers will deliver a Democratic majority of some or Democratic lead of better than Hillary Clinton's. But the map showing the precincts that were covered, red to blue, the great expanse of the country will be red for that very reason. But it'll be where not that many people are.
Yep.
It'll be the rural areas, which tend to be more set in their more static cultures. They're not trends aren't happening there. It's just the same. It tends to be the same from time to time, and conservative. So that's what we're going to see.
All right,
I would remind Republicans, space on the map does not. It's not a race for space, even though it can be, because the Electoral College is largely about space in some respects. But we will not go there. What else you got?
Issues 1, 2, and 3.
Yes.
We have issue 1 looking like it will cross the finish line in the yes column. Issue 2, 48% to 28% yes, no. I think people just see term limits and they're for it. So that one I think gets over the finish line. And then issue 3, struggling, 45% undecided. This one may go down. So
Gosh,
I
hope so.
Pick your number there of the one that you want to offer analysis on, 1, 2, or 3.
Well, for that case, I'll say 3, even though I'll just say briefly on 1, Arkansas people love sales taxes and highways. They just do. That's just going to be a given. But issue 3 is the one that would make it much more difficult for citizens to get their initiatives on the ballot. It would go from 15 to 45 counties, the number where you have certain thresholds of signatures. You no longer get a cure period if you have some signatures thrown out. You don't get time to make them up. And I think somehow the word is getting through to people that they're trying to take our power to vote for our own casinos or vote for our own medical marijuana. I think that message is, I don't know exactly how it's been seeping through because there hasn't been that much press or media attention paid to it, but it seems to be getting through. Your guy, I'm sorry, he's not your guy. Our senator, junior senator, Tom Cotton, was here yesterday, right? You interviewed him yesterday or had him
Interviewed him tail end of the week, yes, for Sunday.
He's gotten out front on this thing. He's been using his office to say it's
the Republican Party of Arkansas has a yard sign for it.
Right, and yet your numbers indicate it's not going to pass. And I think it's this rugged, cussed independence of Arkansas people that they're just saying they're not going to take away my right to make my own laws if I want to. But I'm not clear exactly when that got through. I knew that, you knew that, because we keep up with it. It's our job to keep up with it. I'm not sure when all this voter information took place, but I'm glad that it is.
I think too, it's a complicated ballot initiative. There's so many different parts to it. There hasn't been a simplified message for it. Issue 1, vote for roads. Okay.
Issue 2, term limits.
Term limits. Issue
That's
3,
complicated too, but-
reform the ballot initiative process at the state capitol with the legislatures,
Yeah.
and with citizen initiatives. And here's all the moving parts. It's confusing.
I'm not
And people
even-
tend to vote no when it's confusing.
Well, and which is a good rule of thumb. And so that's one bright spot for the general election.
All right. You want to make a prediction on the next Razorback football game? They're off this week, I think. So
Who do they play next?
A&M.
And down at that Dallas venue?
don't think
Are they
it's
doing
at
that
Dallas.
They're not doing that.
I think they go to College Station, but I'm not
I
positive on
believe
that.
you're right.
Yeah.
I think you're right. Yeah, probably lose. Probably lose, but
Texas A&M will probably lose?
no.
Oh, okay.
No. I mean, A&M seems to have figured itself out, but so has Arkansas. And with a week off, let Barry Odom study the Texas A&M passing game for one more week. See, this is the deal. It's taken me back to the 60s and 70s and the Broyles and early Holtz era when I trusted that our teams had better coaching than the other and were going to give the greater effort. That's what the foundation of Razorback football is to me. And this guy, Big Sam, bringing it back, looks to me like.
Yes, sir.
All right. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
He's John Brummett with the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. Good to see you.
Good to be seen.
That's all for today's program. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
You'll find us at the end of a lot of long country roads, covering over 60% of the great state of Arkansas. Our 17 electric distribution cooperatives are working day and night to provide reliable, affordable power to over 500,000 homes, farms, and businesses, just like yours. The Electric Cooperatives of Arkansas, your local energy partners.